Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to Meet Me Monday. I am Karma with Lewis Acre Farm, and this is Meet Me Monday, as I said. Today, I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about myself and my journey to where I am today, how I work in the garden. Some of you may have seen my hashtag disabled gardener. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my disabilities, why I'm not out in the workforce. I talked to you last week on our very first Meet Me Monday a little bit about the name Lewis Acre Farm, and you know that we don't own a farm. But that's our dream, that's what we aspire to have. And I believe every time I speak the name Lewis Acre Farm, I am speaking it into existence, and it will happen someday. We don't want much. We only want 1 to 3 acres, and I believe it's going to happen somehow, some way. So, we live in a mobile home park. We have one of the largest lots in the park, all the way in the far back. We don't have to deal with all the riffraff. Not that there's riffraff in the park. It's actually a very nice park. We live in the country. But anyway, that's not really what I came here to talk about today. I wanted to talk to you about my disabilities. I haven't always been disabled. I've always had a few physical struggles. As a child, I had problems with my lungs. I've probably had asthma since I was a child, but we didn't know it. It was never called asthma. I wasn't formally diagnosed with asthma until I was in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. However, when I was 10 years old, I was playing with some friends at school. We were just doing a little jumping game that they had back then, and when I jumped, all of a sudden my left hip went out on me and I couldn't walk. I didn't know what it was, but I was in excruciating pain. My parents at the time were really struggling. They didn't have any insurance, and we lived in California at the time. We lived there for 6 years when I was a child. The rest of my life I've lived in Idaho. I was born and raised in Idaho other than those 6 years. So anyway, they couldn't afford to take me to the doctor. So I walked on my hip for 3 weeks. They finally couldn't put me through the pain anymore, and they took me to a doctor, and I can't really remember exactly what they said, but eventually, long story short, they took me to a community hospital where they couldn't turn us away. They had a little clinic there, and I'll never forget that day. This doctor came in. His name was Dr. Grove. I was 10 years old, and this doctor came in, and he did x-rays on me, and then he came in and told my mom, this child isn't going home, this child's having surgery first thing tomorrow morning. And my mom said, we can't afford it, I'm taking her home, I have to talk to my husband about this first. And the doctor said, you don't have a choice. This child is going into this hospital. They're setting up a room for her right now, and she's having surgery first thing in the morning. And my mom kept trying to argue with him and tell him that she had to take me home and talk to my husband, or to her husband first, my dad. And the doctor argued with her and forced her to admit me into the hospital. We got up to the room, and that was one time That was the one time I ever saw my mama cry. She got on the phone and called my dad and told him what happened, and she cried. But when we were still downstairs and I was being examined, I'll never forget the song that was playing. It was Queen of Hearts. I'll never forget that. But anyway, so I was admitted and I had the growth plate on my hip pinned the next morning. And that was the beginning of hip problems for me. Our family has, on my mom's side, has a lot of genetic bone problems, a lot of other health issues. They're all extremely tall, and at one time we went through some genetic testing and they questioned whether or not there was Marfan syndrome in the family. They decided that it probably was not Marfan syndrome, but I don't know that they ever did decide what it was. But I had surgery when I was 10 to have my hip pinned, to have the growth plate pinned back in place. And then when I was 13, I had to have those pins removed. So I was never allowed to run or play or be athletic in any way for those 3 years, and then for a little while after that. But that surgery helped to kickstart early degeneration in my hip. Arthritis runs in the family, and not just in the hips, but throughout the body. And so I've had arthritis from a very early age. When I had my son, I was 20 when I had him. It wasn't too long after that that I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. When I was 26 or 27, would have been 27, I took my son on a vacation and we were camping. I slipped and fell and I broke my ankle, dislocated it in the process, and had to have surgery. My ankle's never been the same. So I have a lot of pain in my ankle, my right ankle. That adds to it. I was at work. I worked with developmentally disabled children and adults, and I was on my last day with a client, and my supervisor and I took her to lunch, and they did not have the floor marked at this restaurant. They didn't have it marked properly, and they had just mopped it, and I had gone up to the counter to get the part of my meal that they had not brought to me, and I slipped and fell, and I injured my right shoulder, and when I went down, I landed on my left knee and instantaneously had severe pain, numbness, and burning in my left knee. I ended up with shoulder surgery, but there was nothing they could do for my knee. What happened was I ended up with a condition called complex regional pain syndrome. It used to be known as reflex sympathetic dystrophy. This disease is also known, it's nicknamed the suicide disease. The reason they call it that is because there is absolutely no cure for this disease. It can happen like it did for me, from an injury, and it can come on suddenly this way. It could happen from something as simple as bumping your toe, having a blood draw. It could happen from getting a bruise. It could happen from any number of things. Now, that's not the only type. I actually have both types of CRPS, complex renal pain syndrome. The other type I received from an automobile accident a short time after my mom passed away in 2014. In 2014, I was rear-ended coming home from town, and I am in constant pain in my right shoulder again. And both my knee and my arm cannot tolerate vibration, touch, sometimes even air blowing across my skin can send me into orbit from the pain. The one in my arm came on very gradually from the injury. It was a different type of injury. It wasn't a crushing injury. It was from having my arm up over the steering wheel getting ready to make a right-hand turn. And I had a slight tear in the rotator cuff. It also caused damage in the biceps. And so that's how that one came about. It's very debilitating, and because there is no cure, and some people have it so severe that they can't get out of bed, and there is no relief. They live at a level 10 pain, even with pain medication. Fortunately, and I praise God for this, I have found medication that works for me, that controls the burning pain. The medication that I take keeps me functioning, but I did spend the better part of, I would say, 4 or 5 years, maybe longer, spending most of my days in bed. And I was awake a lot at night. I would be in and out of bed at night. I slept in a recliner because I couldn't lay flat. I walked with a walker because I couldn't stand. I couldn't lift my feet. I shuffled. And even when Logan and I got together 13 years ago, I was on a walker. I praise God for modern medicine, because I've had both hips replaced. I had the first one done in 2008, and I had a revision done in 2009. But the second one, the left one, was done right after Logan and I got married. In fact, we spent our honeymoon in Salt Lake at the University Hospital getting my hip replaced. We did get a couple of days beforehand to go and do a few things before I had my surgery, but that's what we did for our honeymoon. And I'm thankful for that, because since getting my left hip replaced in 2014, I graduated to a cane, and I walked with a cane all the time. I didn't go anywhere without a cane for several years. I didn't have good balance. I couldn't bend over, I couldn't lift, couldn't do anything. And 9 years ago, we started a garden. It started out small. It was just a real little in-ground garden. And that garden rescued me. I want to encourage anybody who is disabled to garden. I don't care if it's a tub, a pot. I don't care if It's this, a little flower pot with a few seeds in it. Get your hands in the soil. It's regenerative. It is healing. When you start seeing life in that soil, it breathes life into your body. Our first plants were cherry tomato plants. We graduated to a little bit bigger garden. We started planting a few more things. I don't remember what it was. It's been too many plants ago. Too many plants and too many years ago. But then we had this big old empty lot behind us, and it was nothing but weeds and nobody was using it. And we asked the landlord if we could use some of it. And we were told if we took care of it and we kept the weeds down, we could have some of it. And so we did. We got us we rented a tiller the first few years. We rented one. And we tilled ourselves a little plot of land, and we planted seeds. Now, I have to say, Logan did the work. Because remember, I couldn't walk without a walker to start with. I couldn't walk later without a cane. Logan did all the work. I just helped with whatever plants were up high enough that I could reach. And I couldn't be out there for very long. I sat in my manual wheelchair on the sidelines and I watched him do the work. And I enjoyed the harvest. That was the extent of my gardening. I told him what I wanted to grow, and he did the work. And it was depressing. Oh, it was depressing. I wanted to be out there. I can't tell you how many tears I shed because I felt so useless. I felt so incredibly useless because all I did was sit on the sidelines and watch. So, about 5, maybe 6 years ago, I got the brilliant idea that I needed a raised bed that I could tend to, that I could do the work in. It would be just for me. Nobody else could do the work in it but me, because that was going to be my contribution to the garden. I'm still getting around with just a cane most of the time. I walked in the house sometimes without the cane, but outside I was afraid to walk without it. So we bought some landscaping timbers, and my son came over and he helped us, and we built 4 raised beds. They were 8 foot by 2 foot and about 13.5 inches tall. And I would get my wheelchair out there. I'd have them push it out there for me until I got stronger and I decided, oh, I can push my wheelchair out for myself. And I put my wheelchair out there, and I'd get my little garden tools out there, and I would plant my garden. I decided, well, I'm going to put my cherry tomato plant in my raised bed. That way I can take care of a tomato plant. Well, I can put radishes in a raised bed. I can grow those, and maybe some green onions in the raised bed. Well, let's see, carrots can grow in a raised bed. That ought to be good. And then I got brave and I put some squash in there. And I don't remember, I put just a smattering of plants in there, and I found out, you know, these are growing pretty darn good. These are really growing good. They're growing better than they are in the ground. So then I got brave and I started putting more things in there. And you know, the next year I planted more. And then the next year I thought, I started getting a little bit stronger, and I started getting a little bit healthier. My legs were getting better because I wanted to be out there in my garden. And I started using my cane to help plant the big garden. I'd walk out there and I'd use the cane tip and I'd push a hole in the ground to make, you know, so there'd be a place to put the seeds. And then I'd use my cane to cover it up. I still lose my balance a little bit, but I was doing better. Every year I'd get a little stronger, a little bit stronger. Pretty soon, the last couple, 3 years, I'm out there not needing my cane. I'm walking without my cane at home. And I'm out there harvesting. I'm working the big garden. I'm even helping with the hoeing. And gardening rescued me. Gardening got me out of bed. I have found adaptive ways to do the things that I want to do. And yes, I am disabled. There are things I cannot do. I still have to depend on my husband to do things. I want to help with the building of these raised beds and stuff out here, and there's things I cannot do. I can't hold a drill as much as I want to because the vibrations will send me into orbit. I want to do the nailing and the hammering, and I want to do the sawing, and I want to do the building myself, but I cannot do it because of my arm. But there's still so much I can do. And there's so much you can do if you are disabled. So what if you need to ask for help? It's okay. It's okay if you need some help. There are things you can do for yourself. And there are ways that you can garden that bring so much joy and so much life to you. And they are regenerative, and they are healing. They may not heal your body, but they'll heal you on the inside. They will heal your heart. They will heal your mind. They will heal your emotions. And you can do it. You know, if you can't lift a 15-pound or 20-pound bag of soil, buy yourself some coconut coir. They are super, super light. And you put it into a little tub with some hot water and you stir it all up, and it's super light. And you can use it to grow things in. It's super light. I think almost anybody can lift coconut coir. Dollar Tree carries it in the springtime. You can order it from Amazon. Sometimes Lowe's and Home Depot has it. Check your local hardware stores. They may carry it. And the plants will grow very well in it. It's not impossible for someone with disabilities to grow things and to have a garden. And you don't need much space. You can use Dollar Tree grow towers. You can use buckets. You can use, you know what I've got? I found these at Walmart in their little dollar section right inside the front door on the GM side. These are bicycle baskets. Yep, bicycle baskets. I'm going to put a pretty little picture here on the front, write the name of what I'm growing or something. I'm going to fill it with moss and soil to hold the moss first, to hold in the soil. And I'm going to plant flowers in these. They come with little straps to hold them on, and I'm going to hang them on my trellises. And I'm going to have little flowers in my bicycle baskets. You can grow in anything. I even have some reusable shopping baskets that I am, or shopping bags rather, that I am growing sweet potatoes in. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't. And the joy that you get from eating something that you grew, I just can't put it into words. There's ways to adapt. You know what I am using so that I don't have to keep putting my wheelchair in and out of the van? I had an extra, well, I have a shower bench in my shower so that when I take a shower I have a place to sit down. But I had one that didn't work for in the shower. And let me show you here. This is what I'm using in the garden. And it doesn't matter if it gets wet while I'm outside working. It doesn't matter if it gets dirty because I can wash it off. And this way I can be outside and enjoy the weather and work around doing whatever I need to do. And I can move it. It's lightweight. It's got little handles on it. And it's tall. I can adjust the height if I need to. And this year, because we have new owners of the park, they took away our in-ground garden. So now I have raised beds all through my yard. And the best part of it, I got to make them the height that I wanted. They are perfect for me. I'm a tall person. I'm a tall lady. I'm 5'9", 5'10". And so my raised beds are the height that I wanted to accommodate me. And look around on Marketplace and you might find some that people are getting rid of, or you might find lumber that people are selling really cheap. We actually got our lumber for $1 a board, and we were able to buy enough lumber to build 5 beds that are 4x4 and 3 beds that are, I believe they are 2x4, and they're shorter so that they can accommodate the taller plants. But get out there and grow, no matter what. Just get out there and grow, because the feeling that you get when you bring forth life-giving food, it's like none other. It really is. Being disabled is no excuse. It really isn't. Somebody can help you if you just ask. Set aside your pride and ask for whatever assistance you need. Look for adaptive ways to do it, and just do it. You won't regret it. I know I didn't. Gardening saved my life. Gardening got me out of bed. Anyway, that is a little glimpse into me and my disabilities and how I am overcoming them. Thank you for meeting me today on this Monday in June. I will see you again next Monday. Be well, be blessed, and I love you.